Hi, I'm Phyo Zeya Thaw. Thanks for watching the stream. We are revisiting Myanmar today. It is top of the agenda for a meeting of ministers at the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, also known as ASEAN. Why? Well, because recently 4 pro-democracy activists have been executed, and the state of emergency that started back in February 2021 when the military took over Myanmar again, well, that has also been reinforced for another 6 months. So there is plenty to talk about. We start our conversation with Mu Suchua.
The ASEAN Parliamentarians for Human Rights considers the recent executions of the 4 human rights activists as an act of judicial barbarism. The illegal military junta intends to spread fear and terror and to stop nationwide resistance against the coup. Cambodia, as the chair of ASEAN, must work closely with ASEAN and stop legitimizing the illegal military junta. The international community must work together to impose coordinated sanctions and to recognize the representatives of the National Unity Government of Myanmar.
Let's meet your panel. Hello to Nathan, Shunlei, Omar. Thank you so much for joining us. Please introduce yourself. Tell everybody who you are, what you do. Nathan, please start.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm Nathan Omar. I'm a Burmese journalist, working cover on Burma for more than 2 decades. I was, also the co-founder of Kyaw Min Yu Media, and I was, arrested and tortured by the Myanmar military last year. So finally, I was, free and deported back to the state after I spent nearly 100 days of imprisonment. Thank you.
We're so glad to have you here and healthy on the stream today. Shunlei, welcome back to the stream. You always bring us extraordinary stories from down on the ground. Please remind our audience who you are, what you do.
Hello everyone, Minglaba. This is Shunlei. I'm a pro-democracy activist with the grassroots civil society coalition called ACDD. At the same time, in the wake of coup attempt, I've been organizing women and advocating for solidarity among the women protester revolutionaries, and also work with people's goal for defection of the soldiers and police from the military.
And our last guest is Omar. Thank you. Omar, welcome to the stream. Please introduce yourself to our viewers around the world.
Thank you for having me. My name is Kin Omar. I've been a long-term human rights and democracy activist from Myanmar, Burma since 1988, as I was a part of organizing the well-known nationwide pro-democracy uprising known as the 8888. Currently, I'm the chair of the human rights research and advocacy organization called Progressive Voice. We are a local Myanmar human rights organization. Thanks for having me again.
All right, viewers, you've met your panel. Let me tell you what the key question is that we're talking about on YouTube, so you can be right here in the comments section. Can Myanmar's pro-democracy activists endure military pressure? That is the conversation we're going to be having in the next 20 minutes or so. Shunlei, let me start with you. We've been seeing extraordinary, very, very chummy pictures of the Russian foreign minister meeting the head of the Myanmar military on Wednesday local time. When you see these pictures, we'll show you some of them, that relationship between Russia and Myanmar, what does that do to what is actually happening down on the ground? There's an ally there for Myanmar, for sure, and vice versa for Russia.
So the Russia foreign minister, I think this is the first trip to Myanmar, but this is not the first sort of trip by the Russian, weapons aids and the, also different military aids to the Myanmar. But this is the first in-person visits to Myanmar. And when I see that pictures that they are having, lively conversations between these 2 dictators, totally insulting the people of Myanmar, not just to the people of Myanmar, but also to ASEAN and also to the region in Southeast Asia. Because right now the ASEAN foreign affairs ministers meetings happening, and at the same time the Russia foreign minister came in Myanmar to be in solidarity with Myanmar dictators, Myanmar junta. So clearly this is a sign. Also at the same time, the Chinese foreign minister also was in Naypyidaw, the capital city, not long ago. And now Russians are already here, and we don't know what will happen next. This is totally concerning for democracy forces in the region, also in the global stage.
So, Omar, as a contrast, I'm just looking at Chris Gunnis's tweet here from the Myanmar Accountability Project. This is what Chris says. So good to see Myanmar's empty seat at the ASEAN meeting, but an empty chair is an empty gesture unless it is backed up with meaningful economic sanctions and diplomatic measures such as recognition of the, and this is the national unity government that is was put together when the military coup happened. I'm just going to scoot up a little bit so you can actually see that empty chair there. So how do you have an ASEAN peace process with ASEAN not at, or with Myanmar not at the ASEAN meeting of foreign ministers? How is that possible, Omar?
First of all, the ASEAN made this decision not to allow the leaders of the coup to attend the summits or some of the top level, top political meetings since last year, October. That was a good decision. It was a good right direction. It's a direct decision in the right direction. So for us, it's good to see that junta is not there because they don't belong there. This seat belongs to the people of Myanmar. In that sense, it is for the national unity government, the people's elected legitimate government, to take a seat to represent the people of Myanmar. So in that sense, ASEAN made a good decision. But like Chris said, that's not enough at all because ASEAN, in fact, made this 5-point consensus, which they, last year, more than a year now that they made such decision. And that decision all along has failed. So what we see is that with this 5-point consensus decision from the ASEAN, the junta is hiding behind, and actually it is a time delay tactic for the junta to be able to continue to commit these atrocity crimes that they are doing against the people of Myanmar. So the ASEAN must wake up now. Before things getting way too late, because now ASEAN is left with very little credibility, when it comes to Myanmar. So they really need to not only leave the seat empty, but they need to actually invite the national unity government and work with the national unity government to solve the crisis.
Nathan, go ahead.
I totally agree with the, Makin Omar, that the international community, especially the ASEAN, China, India, and Japan, must realize that the Myanmar military is not the part of the solution. The military is a source of conflict. So the international right now is a time to recognize the NUG as a legitimate government of Burma and also engage with the ethnic revolutionary forces known as ERO. Sure. So that is the only way for the rightful way for the Burma to be solved.
So Nathan, I'm thinking if the military is not part of the solution, so if that empty chair is a metaphor for they do not deserve to be at the table, and then you go to the national unity government, is that not war, Nathan, that you're suggesting?
I'm suggesting that not only to recognize the military, Myanmar military, but also to recognize the fully legitimate power to the NUG government. So I'm talking about the future, but at the current situation, the international community failed to recognize the truthful solution for the country. Because, against those backdrop, so there is no way to doing the business as a normal for the international community. Issuing the statement, express their concern and short, and they're watching the situation closely. It's not very helpful. I think enough is enough this time.
Yeah. Shinlei, some brief thoughts here that I want to share with you from our YouTube audience. I'm just going to include some of their thoughts here. Why is Russia supporting Myanmar? Briefly, Shinlei, thoughts?
Oh, that's obvious that Russia's been backing Myanmar military before it was military, taking over the whole country. And in 2010, we had first ever sort of election led by the military. And after that, people keep demanding democracy and democracy. But at the same time, now military is trying to attempt a coup again. And now here's again the role of Russia and China come back again. And simply they are exporting their dictatorship, not just their system, but also the surveillance equipment, the arms, and also funding the military in Myanmar to hold the power. And that's clearly the reason that they are backing the Myanmar military for a long time. And at the same time, with that U.S. trying to, be in the Southeast Asian region, and then Russia is coming now to, challenging the U.S. and also democratic forces.
Okay, Sinead. I'm trying to get some more viewers in because they want to talk to all of the guests. This is one for you that I'm going to share with you, Omar. ASEAN could be a force in the region if they were active about human rights. Omar, brief thoughts.
Oh yes, definitely. I've been involved in this, developing this ASEAN community for a long time actually, and it's been really disappointing of how the ASEAN has become more of like this autocracy, the club of autocracy, rather than a club of democracy or the for the people. So it's the the ASEAN has such, for example, a body they call as the Human Rights Commission,
right,
or the Women and Children's Rights Protection Commission, for example. But these all are under the control of the government and independent. What we need is the human rights bodies that are independent and impartial. And yet this region completely lacks such bodies, and therefore we couldn't bring such grave human rights violations happening in our countries, not only in Myanmar, Burma, but also like in Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam. We were not able to bring it up to the regional body. And in fact, we call ASEAN as paper tiger because there is no teeth.
Nathan, I have one more thought from you, from our viewers who are watching our conversation right now. I am worried for the people after they have declared a state of emergency. This is an extension of the state of emergency that's been going on for over a year. If they protest, they will be hurt. Nathan, you know all too well what being hurt and being tortured is like.
Yeah, anyone can be killed at the gunpoint of the Myanmar soldier anytime. This is the best picture I can give it to you now for what is happening on Burma. So, since the unconstitutional coup, so the military, turned the whole country from being stable into a chaos, to a devastating one with the COVID and, with the conflicts and chaos. So the people are now fighting back. So, that's mean, they are taking back their whole country. So that is clearly demonstrated that the will of the people must be respected. So in this situation, if anyone or any country consider supporting the Myanmar military execution and committing a war crime and serious, the crimes against humanity, I mean, that is the very shameful, moment for the history, war history.
Shinlei, one of the things that we really wanted to make sure that we addressed today was how the people of Myanmar are handling the additional pressure from the military. Are you seeing a different kind of tactic or strategy that the military are using now? The state of emergency has been extended again, which means that they do not have control of the country. Where are we now in this movement back to democracy, or the movement from the military to try and secure the country?
So this August 8th will mark 34 years of, anniversary of the 888, 4/8 revolutions. And since then, we've been seeing a tremendous amount of crimes against humanity, war crime in different ethnic areas. Even in the revolution, they have killed countless students, leaders, and workers, civilians, all of it. And now they're applying the same tactic, almost similar, but now even more brutal. Like they're using scout art policy nationwide. They've been burning down different houses. More than 10,000 houses were burned down. Villages, the whole villages were sculpted, from art. And at the same time, they have executed 4 political prisoners, and more political activists are in line to be executed. And they're using more and more brutal way of, for example, sexual violence in different conflicts, though, as a weapons of the war and the terror campaign, nationwide. So I would say they've been using more and more tactic. But the same thing is the fear, it's trying to instill fear to the people. And now this is different in 2021. It's the young people exposing to the internet and using different creative way, digital tools to counter. It's not just a physical coup, it's also a digital coup. So the young people using different way to counter. At the same time, not just countering their game. We are trying to form our own game. So we're tired of playing along with their game, including the 2008 Constitution. Just today, the young people banned down 2008 Constitution on the street of Yangon.
So
this is clearly a signal that.
Shinlei, when you say we're forming our own game, I want to hear a little bit more about that. But first, I'm going to go via the project manager for Rap Against the Junta. It's a group of creatives, a group of artists. You will see that his face is covered, obviously, for safety reasons. But this is the spirit of the resistance in Myanmar, or at least one side of it. Let's have a listen. Let's have a look.
The more we closer to win, the more cruelty will happen to the people by the junta regime. Their inhumanity is insane, totally. And there go violent side and non-violent side. Yeah, we got no option for that, and the revolution is 360, so we have to show love to our enemies no matter how ruthless they are. Of course, we hate them. You can see how devastating we are right now at the moment, but love is the only answer to win the cause.
So I hear that hate coming from the resistance, but I also hear that coming from the military leadership as well. I'm just going to play this to you, Omar, and I'd really like you to unpack it for us in the way that the military is thinking about the way ahead for them. This is the military leader, Min Aung Hlaing, talking about the extension of the state of emergency. Omar.
We made utmost efforts in discharging the state's duties with might and main. But internal and external terrorists and their conspirator persons and organisations are committed to the utter devastation rather than the flourishing of democracy in Myanmar.
Well, Femi, first of all, we all have to be very clear is that this military is and has never been one for love, but it is an institution. They teach the soldiers to hate the people. They teach soldiers to hate the people with the belief in democracy. And also this is the military who has never believed in dialogue either. And our country for many times have tried peace negotiations, dialogue with this military to have a political settlement. There is a saying in our long democracy movement and a movement for the ethnic rights and equality. The political crisis must be solved with a political solution. And all the actors involved have tried all along. But we always face the bottom line, we go back to the square one and square zero all the time, is because this military don't believe in dialogue. And also what they want is their ongoing power and iron grip over the country, but not only in politics, but is actually its economy. Because we are a country, unfortunately, or fortunately or unfortunately, we're a country very rich with natural resources. It is a resource curse because this military know that they can actually grip build this economic web and personal wealth from the natural resources. So what they do is they know that they cannot let go of their power. So no matter at what cost, they will continue to remain. And that's the very reason we're telling the UN and Security Council and the ASEAN, look, this military, the solution, it lies with the people of Myanmar. And the people of Myanmar have already, for last 18 months at least, continuously showed of what they want and also what they are trying, sacrificing everything of their life, especially the young generation. So we're telling the UN and the ASEAN is like, you must actually come to the reality, grab on the reality, is that Myanmar will only move forward when this military is dismantled and brought under the civilian administration, civilian control. That's the only way for Myanmar to move forward, and the Security Council really needs to act. And if Security Council cannot act because of China and Russia blocking, we need the other democratic countries like the US government, EU and UK, and Australia and Japan, New Zealand, form a like-minded group and act on with responsibility to protect. They need to protect the people of Myanmar because people of Myanmar have been protecting themselves and defending, of this military's barbaric violence for the last 18 years.
Right,
and now the time is not waiting, and the UN really need to act, and the US government also need to impose sanctions on the Myanmar oil and gas sector.
Thank you,
so that
Omar. I want to share the last
blocked.
few minutes with Nathan. Nathan, I'm sure you'll be aware of Sean Crispin. Sean Crispin is from the Committee to Protect Journalists. This is how he sums up the media landscape in Myanmar right now. I'd love to hear your thoughts off the back of this, because obviously journalism, media, a free, fair press is really vital for any country that wants to call itself democratic. Here's Sean.
Myanmar's media faces an unprecedented crisis since military coup makers have moved to stifle independent news reporting inside the country. Since last year's coup, publications have been banned, journalists have been jailed, and even in instances killed while in military custody. We see this as a concentrated and targeted campaign against the free press to stifle news reporting, to effectively outlaw independent media, precisely at a time as the coup makers are being accused of extraordinary rights abuses across the country.
Nathan.
Yes, I totally agree with what Sean said. If you look at the whole backdrop in what happened in the last 18 months, so the media is no longer exist to report what they are seeing and what is happening in Burma. No, you have no right to live. That is what happened. So and actually the resistance is growing, to liberate the Burma. So we would say that there is a kind of like a second independent movement, since after like 75 years. With the conflict. So the people are now protesting against the Myanmar military in the three different ways. With the peaceful protests, pops and pans, as also the silent strikes, and also the boycotting the military protest, including the CDM, civil disobedience movement. And also, they are taking the armed struggle, against the military, under the guidance of the ethnic, revolutionary forces. Finally, they are asking the world not to give the legitimacy, not to recognize the Myanmar military as a government. Right. So that we have been 18 months to see that what is happening is the revolutionary war. Okay. That is happening in Burma. So the world is still watching.
Nathan, can I ask you, let me ask you one question, because we've got 1 minute left, and I want to ask you as the journalist on our panel this question. Have a look here on my laptop again, just recalling what we asked at the very beginning of the show. Can Myanmar's pro-democracy activists endure military pressure? This is a one-sentence answer, Nathan, but you're a journalist. I know you can do it. Go ahead.
Yeah, this, has been 18 months, the world is still watching what we are doing, including the journalists and the people. They're no longer safe. The people's security is, falling apart.
Thank you, Nathan.
So we are, yeah.
Thank you very much for being part of today's show. And Shinlei, Omar, and for your questions and comments on YouTube as well. I'll see you next time. Take care, everybody.